Well, Haras Rafiq is head of the Quilliam Foundation, a counter-extremism think tank, and he joins us now. Good morning, Haras.
Good morning.
So is this the struggle of our generation, the big battle?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the biggest issues we face right now. We know that we've got 700 plus of our British youngsters that have gone out to join ISIL, and we know there are many others who are sympathisers and empathisers here in the country. And I think that the Prime Minister is right to set the tone and has to show leadership on this from the government, and really isolate the problem and differentiate the problem, which is Islamist extremism, from Islam, the faith, and really show some leadership.
And what should we be doing then?
Oh, a number of things. I think, first of all, we have the laws in place already which allow the government to tackle people once they've become part of the problem, once they've become radicalised to join groups such as ISIL and Al-Qaeda, etc. But what we don't have is a strategy on how we're actually going to build the resilience. How are we going to, as a civil society, tackle this problem? I think that the Prime Minister needs to ensure that he sets the tone, as I mentioned, but also allow and rally the civil society to come together and try and take on this ideological struggle that we face, which is just as important as the actual people going out and joining ISIL.
Now, the Prime Minister is also expected to say that we should stop playing retrospectively the blame game, particularly pointing the finger at the security services, intelligence services, even the police, when young people do abscond, go abroad and join ISIS. What are your thoughts on that? Because he seems to be saying, actually, parents and communities, the Muslim community, should take more responsibility.
I think we all have to take more responsibility, certainly Muslims as well. If we look at one of the three girls...
So, excuse me, when you say all of us, you mean like me? What's it got to do with me? You mean the Muslims, don't you?
Well, I mean, actually all of us, and I'll tell you why. If we actually leave this as just a Muslim problem for Britain, we start polarising the debate. We have to, first of all, set this aside from the faith and look at it as an Islamist ideology, which is basically a totalitarian fascist ideology. It's been taken from the Nazis, it's been taken from communism by a guy called Sayyid Qutb, exported into the Middle East, and then instead of actually doing it for the state or doing it for the country, do it for God is what he wanted, what he told people to do. So we differentiate it from the faith, and it's something we all have to do. But Muslims especially, if you look at, as I was going to say, the three girls in Bethnal Green that went to go and join ISIL, one of the parents was actually pictured holding a teddy bear, crying for his young daughter to come back. And I actually believe he was genuine, he wants his daughter to come back. But what came out later was video footage of him attending a rally by Anjem Choudhury, which is who heads up a prescribed Islamist organisation, with his daughter burning American flags and British flags and carrying the black flag. So I think that some parents, inadvertently are setting the foundation and the tone at home, and I think that needs to be challenged, and I think we need to discuss that more within the Muslim community. Absolutely right. And more Muslims need to speak out against this.
And also in the past, for example, there's been talk about this almost, I suppose you could call it almost a lazy way of not actually saying exactly what is going on in these other places, and actually almost condoning things, but not.
No, absolutely. I think, first of all, naming the problem is absolutely essential. President Obama made a speech a few months ago in the US where he said that, it's actually a very good speech, where he said that there's an evil ideology at play. But almost like some Voldemorian Harry Potter style effect of he who shall not be named, he almost forgot to name what the evil ideology was, which means that people in the States start actually saying that, well, it's Islam that's the problem, it's all Muslims are the problem. The debate becomes very much like Islam is good or Islam is bad, Muslims are good or Muslims are bad. I think that the Prime Minister, and I'm hoping that the Prime Minister will actually say that this is an Islamist ideology which is different from Islam, the faith, just as we've got a difference between social and socialism. Social is the way that we all interact, and socialism is a distinct political ideology which is left of centre. Hence, Islamism is different from Islam. But also, I think that we need to actually go a bit further and say, okay, what are the symptoms of this ideology? Well, they believe in an Islamist caliphate, they're totalitarian, they use victim mentality, they use the conspiracy theories that have been prevalent since 9/11 and use them to their advantage and try to isolate youngsters.
What would you say, Harris, to those people who say that actually, apart from, say, the paranoia and the conspiracy theories, there are elements of social control, elements of a lack of democracy in many flourishing Arab states, for example, Saudi Arabia, with whom we do perfectly legal business an awful lot of the time we want their business, and yet they operate a system that is virtually a caliphate?
Well, they're trying to emulate what they call a caliphate, and I absolutely agree with people who say that countries such as Saudi Arabia, who will do just the things that ISIL will do, they will actually have public beheadings on a Friday after Friday prayers for people who may have committed adultery or people who may have done things that we consider, better ways to actually try and sentence people that have been criminals. Absolutely. I mean, and we are trading with them as a country, but I still want somebody to explain to me what our foreign policy has got to do with taking Yazidi sex slaves in ISIL, what our foreign policy has got to do with Wahhabi, Salafist, Islamist Muslims killing Shia Muslims in Kuwait. Foreign policy isn't actually what's causing our problems. Foreign policy is something that can be used by people to actually either anger young Muslims or by highlighting what's going on in Saudi Arabia and trying to claim that as a Muslim state, will actually give succor to the far right to say, well, it's all Islam and all Muslims.
Haras Rafiq, thank you very much, head of the Quilliam Foundation, a counter-terrorism think tank.